Welcome to the Maria Heller Show, on the net since 2000 and still going strong. If you feel like you're not getting the real news, if you feel like you're not connected spiritually, you have found your home. Maria covers a wide range of topics as only a snarky New Yorker can. Straight up, no chaser. No censorship, no corporate sponsors, thus true freedom of speech. Your subscription gives you unlimited access as a member of the smartest audience on earth. Relax and enjoy the education. Now here's Maria.
Good morning, world. Meria here, alive and kicking. Welcome to The Bigger Picture with myself and Michael Reccia. We're so happy to take a break from politics today, even though it affects all of us. But we're going to be talking about more information in his excellent latest book, The Spaces Between, Unshaped Forces that Unseen Forces that Shape Your Life. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Maria.
How are you doing today?
I'm okay today, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right, getting through it. It just
Yes.
seems to me like this year has gotten off to a terrible start for so many people.
It's certainly a walk uphill, isn't it, thus far?
So far, I'm like, okay, did they get it wrong? Did 2012 hold off till 2020?
And it's only February, Maria.
I know, it's only February. That's what I keep reminding myself. But so many people are feeling this energy in a negative way, so affecting so many people's health, especially.
Yes.
Besides the fact that, we have a lot of people in this country that are basically suicidal. I think suicide is like the number one cause of death now in America.
That's awful.
I know, it's a terrible thing. And, I wake up every day and I'm like, what's happening? Is the field collapsing on top of us?
I think, if anything, the field is getting stronger, but I think there's less energy for us to draw on. Because, of course, we're all drawing on not all of us, but many of us are drawing on the wrong type of energy. The energy that we need is the energy that we can access via our heart centers, not via the external world, where vibrations are becoming more and more and more condensed, more and more consolidated, more and more into materialism. And it's a wake-up call for us all, and I think that's what many of us who are sensitive are feeling at this time. We can feel the change, we can feel that we're on the edge, and we can feel that now is the time that we need to do something. As we discussed a moment ago, I think that this year is going to be the deciding year for us.
Well, right now it looks pretty bleak out there. But
yes, indeed.
We'll see. Miracles could still happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Despite what the American press and the pundits and everything have said, especially about Bernie Sanders, he ended up winning last night. So if you have a press that works against us and doesn't tell us the truth, and I'm sure it's no different in your country, change has to happen.
Yes.
But
and
now
we can effect that change. We can make that change happen. We mustn't take any notice of what society is telling us. We must take notice of what we know to be true within us and what we know we really are. Everything else is whitewash. Everything else is an illusion, and we can change that illusion. But at the moment, we're buying into it so much that we are consolidating this darkness around ourselves, this materialism around ourselves, and we have to make that change. We've got to do it.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know how people can't see it. Even the atomic clock says we're at 100 seconds to midnight.
Yes, indeed.
And that's the closest we've ever been.
Yes.
So, it really is up to all of us to, live our lives and stay centered on ourselves and especially our spirituality, because this world is it's almost like it's designed to knock you off your kilter.
Yes, yeah. We have to live and breathe what we really are. We have to get back to that state of mind, which is what we were before we tilted things in the wrong direction millennia ago. We've got to get back to that mindset. Mm-hmm. When we get up in the morning, see ourselves first as a spirit and then as a physical being, not the other way around.
Exactly. Well, I was rereading a couple of chapters in your book last night, and especially the chapter on disease, which I think is chapter 5. And I remembered reading that Joseph says that there's no such thing as a new disease. And yet here
Yes.
we are on the world where everybody's in a panic over the coronavirus.
Yeah, yeah. It's a matter of rededication of the same molecules. And another fascinating thing in that chapter, of course, is that he says originally there was no such thing as disease. There were microscopic organisms, but they weren't tilted against us. They've been tilted against us to do harm because of the effects of the fall, because of the negativity of the field. So again, it's all down to that core mistake that we made all those years ago, that rededicated energy, that set one type of life form against another type of life form. And we can tackle disease. What we forget is that we can also tackle disease through the transmission of light. That if we put light into the molecules of a disease, we eradicate the negative aspects of that disease, and it doesn't have an effect on us. And it sounds like pie in the sky, but it's not. And we should be tackling our diseases from two bases, as it were, from the base of medicinal help, from the medical profession, but also from the point of view of what that disease contains within it. And it contains within it, at core, the same light that we do. And so if we reignite that light, we cancel out the effects of the disease. And really, we should be sitting in groups at the moment and sending light out to the disease in China, to the poor people who have got that disease, and literally lightening the effects of that disease on their body, in conjunction, of course, with the medical profession. You treat it on a physical level, because that's how it manifests, but you also treat it on a spiritual level. And then miracles do happen and people do recover. We know that from reader feedback from people who've read the Joseph books. People, for example, who've been suffering from cancer and have irradiated their bodies with light, as Joseph suggests that we do, and have astonished their doctors and surgeons who have said, how can this happen? How can you be healthy again? Well, they're healthy again because they've reinstated the light that is within them. And they have infused the cancerous cells with light, and the cancerous cells disappear.
Right. Well, another thing, which is kind of sad, instead of sending light, what's happening is there's a lot of people, I guess, from their fear and their racist outlook that are now starting to hate Chinese people as if it's their fault.
Yes, as though a disease is someone's fault, as though a virus is someone's fault. I mean, ultimately, it goes back to our decision at the time of the fall. So technically, it's everybody's fault. But everybody can put it right. And we have to start treating diseases in the same way that we treat the world in our visualizations, and put light into those situations, put light into those hospitals, put light into those poor people, and continue to do it. The problem is there's so much negativity around that we do it for a couple of days and think, oh, it's not working. Right. There's no difference. We've got to keep on keeping on. We've got to send out light daily into all these negative situations to make a difference. And we've got to join together in sending out light. It doesn't matter whether we know the person next to us or in the next village who's sending out light. We join together with them through our connection spiritually, and we become a force to be reckoned with. Mm-hmm. And then we change things. But we have to have, not faith, but we have to remember what we are capable of. Remember how that transmission of light works. And remember that it cannot fail unless we are doubtful. Mm-hmm. Unless we doubt our ability to send out the light and change things. Because the minute we doubt, we dampen down our light-sending capability. Mm-hmm. Because we're creative beings. So we're saying, yeah, I don't think this is going to work. And of course, that's what we're creating, something that won't work. Right. What we have to do is to say, of course this can work. How can this not work? This is already working. And send that belief out with our light, and then we're very effective and powerful beings for change.
Right. In other words, think of it as a done deal when you put it out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
And thanking divinity, thanking the God within for something that we haven't seen yet is a fantastically powerful way of achieving that which we haven't seen yet take place physically or materially, because we are affirming that we already have it.
Right.
Thank you, Father. Thank you, Divinity. Thank you, the healing has taken place. Thank you, that person is so much better. Thank you, the world has changed. Which activates that knowledge within us, reinforces that knowledge within us, and brings the desired effect to us completely.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about so many people that I know personally that are close to me. And some of their diseases, which, they throw it at me. And of course, my curiosity, I go in and research everything. And one of my favorite sites is the Mayo Clinic, because a lot of people trust the name Mayo Clinic. So when I'm looking up, one person whose kidneys are failing, they have diabetes, their kidneys are failing. Another one, all our arteries are hardened. This, that, the other thing. As I look them up, there are very little solutions to a lot of these diseases. But one of the things that's in common that they all recommend is switching to a high-fiber vegetarian diet. And even with kidney disease, I read that it's because of eating red meat. And I remember in your earlier books, including this new one, where it says there was no meat eating before the fall.
Absolutely.
So how did we get hoodwinked into, because they're blaming this coronavirus on the exotic animals that people are eating and selling live and whatnot in China, how did we get hoodwinked into eating meat?
Well, first of all, animal began eating animal following the fall due to our skewed vibrations after the fall, which said to us as individuals, you don't have enough power. You need to take from this aspect of materialism to survive. You need to take from that aspect of materialism to survive. And the animals, because they are linked into us psychically, followed the pattern. So they began to eat each other. And of course, we eat them. We think we're eating power. If you go back far enough, you will have society. You will have tribes that believe that eating an animal gives you power, and that all goes back to the root cause, which is the fall. And it's funny, isn't it, that people level this criticism at vegetarians and say, we have canine teeth. Yes, we have canine teeth today, but we don't use them as canines. We've had canine teeth for millions of years. People change. People should be changing. You can't say just because we have canine teeth, we should be eating meat. Our meats are loaded with disease. And as we've said many times on this show, the fear with which animals are dispensed, the horror, the fear, the upset is transmitted into their physical vibrations. And so when you eat meat, not only do you eat the drugs that are in that meat so that the meat can grow and be the biggest lump of meat you can afford, you're also eating the fear that the animal has had at the time that it is being dispatched. Cruelly dispatched. Its life has been taken. You are consuming fear. You are consuming drugs. You are consuming a very dense vibration that your body has great difficulty getting rid of, getting out of your system. And so your system concentrates on getting rid of that fear, on getting rid of that heavy vibration, and then if there's a disease comes your way, you don't have the sufficient energy in your immune system to fight it off because you are going inwards all the time, trying to digest and get rid of that which you shouldn't be eating in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you talk about dense vibration, wouldn't you think that coaxing people, which are, I don't know about in the UK, but here the USDA has told us, with their pyramid of what we should be eating,
Yes.
I think it was all deliberate because I think the more dense your vibration gets, the more your connection to spirit fades.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
It almost locks you into
and
this
then, of
reality.
course, there is so much money invested in and so much money made from the meat industry that we are not informed with regard to health, with regard to meat eating. All the facts are there. The facts are known by those in big business, but of course it's not big business to recommend that we eat anything other than meat to live a healthy life. And so the whole system is corrupt. But nevertheless, we should be eating lighter vibrations. And again, we've mentioned this on the show before, but when I was in training, as it were, for trance work, I was told by Joseph that I needed to eat leafy green vegetables to stimulate the higher vibrations of my being so that I would be more receptive and more in tune with him and with the soul group to bring through the information for the Joseph communications. So there's a benefit in not eating meat because we become healthier, but there's also a benefit in that we stimulate the higher atoms of our physical, mental, spiritual being so that we are more in tune and more receptive via our intuition to those promptings from higher vibrations. From guiding influences, from angelic influences, from those who are trying to get us out of this fix, this mess that we've gotten ourselves into.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting you say all that because about a week or so ago, I interviewed Dr. Neil Bernard. He's got a new book out called Body and Balance. And of course, he's a vegan. He's recommended a high-fire vegan diet. And I took half the show and I published it on YouTube. And the first comment I got was a nasty comment of, oh, yeah, this is great. This guy's is a depopulation expert, and good luck trying to get your period as a woman, blah, blah, blah. The guy went like totally crazy. So I realized that, the hardest thing to talk to anybody about, especially my friends who are now facing their mortality, and they're shocked over it, which I don't even understand the shock because I've watched their lifestyle. But when you talk to somebody about something simple, like to me it's simple, changing your diet, some people get really upset.
Yes, I think it's a subconscious thing. I think it's because, or maybe it's a conscious thing, that they realize that they don't have the willpower to do it, and so they attack someone who does. We as vegetarians, you're attacked. And you say, well, I'm not attacking you. You eat as you want to eat. I will eat as I want to eat. That's my choice. But you get attacked because they know at base level, at spiritual level, at core, that it is not the right thing to do. It is not the thing they should be doing.
But they do
and
it
as
anyway.
You say, you have people who are riddled with disease, riddled with organ failure, and still will not relinquish the meat eating or the bad diet to make themselves better. Mm-hmm. And you think, well, can you not see?
No,
can you not see?
I try to make sense out of it, and it's hard for me, if somebody's close to me, it's hard for me not to get angry.
Yes,
so I have to try to zip the lip and just sit there, okay?
Yeah.
But if you just got the news that your diabetes has caused your kidneys to fail, and you go out to lunch, and while I'm eating a veggie burger, you're eating pie a la mode with about 6 inches of whipped cream on it.
Yes.
It's hard for me to make that connection. It's like my brain wants to just explode watching this.
Yeah. I think there's a huge point here that's illustrated by what we've just been talking about. And that is personal responsibility. And we are so used to pushing responsibility for every aspect of our lives onto someone else, onto society, onto our doctors, onto our teachers, onto our counselors, onto our dietitians, and we say, it's your fault. You take care of it for me. Right. And the greatest freedom we have, the greatest gift we have is self-responsibility, self-reliance, spiritual self-reliance. And we ignore it. We want somebody else to make everything better for us. That's never going to happen. And that's the reason that we're still in this mess from the time of the fall, because we don't accept that we got anything wrong. And we don't accept that we can do anything to get ourselves out of it, when ultimately, with all the spiritual prompting that comes to us, with all the guidance, it has to be our decision to get out of it. Right. It has to be our decision to tackle things differently, to live differently, to harmonize with people differently. Nobody can do it for us. If it takes a year or 1,000,000 years, ultimately it is down to each of us.
Right.
And when we realize that, then we start to make things better.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, when I said to this person, I said, "Is this is what you're eating?" I said, I couldn't even compute it in my brain, Michael. And he
Yes.
said, "Well, it's just too late, so I'm just going to keep doing what I do." And I
Oh
said to
gosh.
him, "It's not too late until you're pushing up daisies."
Yes.
So I don't understand that. It's like when I used to paint for a living, and I had students say, "I'm too old to start painting," and I said, "Well, Grandma Moses didn't think that."
Yes.
So at one point or another, you have to, you have to take responsibility, and not
Yes.
push it off. But these are the very same people that get very angry with their doctors. They throw that anger at their doctors, and I'm like, why are you mad at the doctor? The doctor's trying his best to try to help you. He didn't create the problem.
Yeah, and the respect for the body that we have, this wonderful sentient vehicle. It has its own sentience, and it keeps us going. It's this wonderful spacesuit or shell or car. And, we spend all these dollars, all these pounds on cars, thousands and thousands of dollars on cars, and we polish the car and we wax the car and we make sure that it's maintained well and it's got the finest oil in it and the finest petrol in it. And yet the very same thing with our bodies we don't do.
No,
We don't
I
do.
agree.
We have something that is more precious than any car, than any material commodity, and we treat it dreadfully. Dreadfully. It should be a shrine. It should be a temple. It should be regarded as a holy thing.
Right.
And yet we run it down, and then, as you say, we complain bitterly when it fails us.
Exactly. I make posts like that. People will get, they'll make sure they get their oil change on time. But they don't worry about their oil change in their bodies. But, another aspect of this, because I don't want people to think that we sound like holy rollers when it comes to eating, because I really don't care what people eat. I can only put the information out there and live by example.
It is the same. Sorry.
But the thing that bothers me the most, I go back to, I don't remember which one of your books it was in, because I loved them all. But when you talked about the animals as the Diva Kingdom, the beings that are holding this planet together. And I look at Australia and the fire in Australia that wiped out like at least 50% of the animals. I look at China now. They're culling thousands, hundreds of thousands of chickens and pigs. And they have swine flu. They have bird flu. It's not just coronavirus. And I think to myself, and I had a sick story yesterday of some guy that decided to shoot and stab a dolphin in the waters of Florida. And I look at this and it's like, are human beings deliberately getting rid of the divas, the beings that hold this planet together? Are the divas leaving on their own saying, I've had enough, I'm out of here?
I think the divas are the most selfless spirits we ever come across. They don't, as you've said, they don't need to be here. They are here to provide the backdrop of reality, in inverted commas, against which we move and have our experience. And they do that out of love for us. No other reason. They don't need to be here. They could leave us with this blackened backdrop of nothing, but they choose, out of spiritual love, to uphold us, to try and maintain the status quo on the planet so that we can work our way out of things. And it is terrible that we're attacking animals. But I think the problem is we're responding more and more from the head mind and not from the heart mind. And the head mind is plugged into the depravities and the negativities of the field, whereas the heart mind, the core, the spiritual core that we have, connects us to the divine, connects us to the right kind of moves, the right kind of actions, the right kind of thoughts. But we are, as things seem to be heavier and heavier, we are connecting more to the field. And we are responding to those energies that are trapped within the field of human consciousness. All the depravities, all the violence, when we need to seek within. We've said this, I don't know how long we've been doing this show, Maria. Is it 8 years, something like that?
At least, right.
And we've said, you've got to seek within. That's where you find yourself. That's where you find peace That's where you find direction. That's where you find strength. That's where you find healing power. We can't. There is no other message.
Right.
There is no other message until people go within and then bring from within, without that light that is within. Things won't change.
Right.
That's the only way that you can change things. Things will never change through politics. Things will, apart from negatively, things will never change through violence apart from negatively. We have to go within. We are denying ourselves and blaming everything else for that denial as being the cause of that denial. What is wrong with us is that we have disconnected ourselves consciously from the God within. We have disconnected ourselves consciously from what we truly are. And until we reconnect, things will get worse.
Right. Well, we've also disconnected ourselves from nature. Humans somehow think that we're not a part of nature. You know, last night, I have to tell you, it was probably about, I want to say 11:30 when I was going to bed. And all of a sudden, the sound of the coyotes outside, it almost sounded like they were in my front yard. And they were howling. And I thought about how blessed I've been for 30 years to live in the desert and hear the singing of the coyotes. And I mean, it went on for a while. I'm sure all that crazy moon energy was part of it, probably why I didn't get much sleep. But I never take it for granted. You know, if I go for a drive, you know, where I live, you can go for a short drive, less than 5 minutes, and actually see elk in their habitat. And that's one of the biggest thrills for me, is seeing those majestic beings just not a worry in the world. You know, they don't have any bills to pay. You know, they trot around, they bring their little babies around with them, and they're just magnificent. And I've never once taken it for granted.
I just say there's such beauty. The animals are so beautiful. I mean, you can go into a field and look at a blade of grass and be in awe at the beauty that has been put forth by the divas for our pleasure. For our pleasure. Mm-hmm. And we trample over it and ignore it. As you say, Maria, the animal forms are just stunningly beautiful. You could study them for a lifetime and only look at one beautiful aspect of them. So complex, so beautiful, and you can see the great work that has gone into creating those beings.
Right.
And we defile them, we destroy them, we consume them.
Right.
Such arrogance.
Or they hunt them, you know.
Yes.
But luckily, a lot of these elk are a lot smarter than people, because they know when the hunting season starts here, which I dread, the elk are missing. You know, they know how to hide. They know how to blend. It's not to say that some of them don't get murdered. But I don't even understand in 2020 that anybody has this urge or desire to go out and kill a beautiful animal.
No.
But
kill anything.
I know. Anyway, I wanted to also talk about just a little bit, you know, this week is Valentine's Day. I don't know if that's a big deal or if you even do it in the UK, do you?
Increasingly, it's a big deal. It has come over from your shores over the past few years as a commercial enterprise, I'm afraid.
Well, it's all it really ever was. I mean, when I think of Valentine's Day, as an Italian, I think of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Absolutely, yes, so do I.
Right, which was wrongly blamed, by the way, on Al Capone. And I got to interview Al Capone's niece, and we did get to talk about that. And, you know, one of the interesting things that I did not know that you'll probably get a kick out of, Michael, is that Al Capone was highly psychic, which is why the cops could never catch him.
I wouldn't be at all surprised. That makes a lot of sense.
I know. But that's what I think of. I think of the lies we were told on, you know, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which I'm sure was, you know, an inside job, and the police pulled that one off. But luckily, Al Capone was in Florida at the time. So, you know, you look at this world, and now all of a sudden it's just a materialistic holiday. But for a lot of people, it means a lot, and a lot of depression for people that don't have a Valentine.
Yes.
And I think about something I reread in your new book. It's actually in chapter 5. It talks about, you know, you look at yourself as being unloved because you're thinking of yourself through the physical mind.
Yes.
And one thing that I have suggested and told people for feels like a millennia is that you need to love yourself first and foremost before someone else can love you. And if you think you're unlovable, then that's what you're putting out.
Yes, there's a big sign on your forehead that says, "Stay away from me. I'm not worthy of being loved." Mm-hmm. And also we, through not loving ourselves, start to break down our physical bodies because we feel that we're not worthy of being here. We're not worthy of the energy that we should have. We have to love ourselves. We're all a mixture of, we're all an ongoing story, a work in progress, working out of our system those things that prevent our vibrations going higher. And it's fine to do that. We're all doing it. And we have to forgive ourselves for the things that we've done in the past that we feel or weren't the thing to do. But the fact that we can look at those things and say, "I shouldn't have done that," means that we've moved beyond them. Because at the time we did them and didn't think anything about it. The fact that we can look back at them and think, "Well, that was wrong," is great. It means that we're moving on. But we can't keep clinging to the past and thinking, "I'm a terrible lot because I did this 20 years ago or 30 years ago." That was 20 years ago. That was 30 years ago. You are a work in progress. You are a pilgrim. You are moving on. You are lifting your vibration.
Exactly.
So start to love yourself and start to love the God that you are, the God within that you are a part of, and see yourself as worthy of love. And you can find love in so many different ways. Be thankful for your friends. Be thankful for the connections that you make when you're out shopping or at work. Those moments that resonate with someone and you think, "I'm so glad they're in my life." Not in a romantic sense, but because they are a spirit that adds to your experience of life. And thank the God within for that. Thank the God within that you have those friends, you have those connections, and they then become a more frequent thing with you. As you accept that you are loved, as you accept that you have good times and good connections with people, and you value the people around you and value yourself, then you put that into the mix, and more of that comes back to you.
Exactly. Michael, we need to take a short break, but when we come back, I wanted to continue this little theme of love, because I think it's like that old Dusty Springfield song. It was, what the world needs now is love, sweet love. So
Absolutely.
Stay with us. Michael and I will be right back. Hi, this is Maria Heller. If you're enjoying this show, please consider listening to the rest of it, along with hundreds of other hours of education, by a small subscription on my site. Get over to meria.net, meria.net. You are the only thing that supports this show. There's no corporate control, and there's plenty of education on site. So please consider either a subscription or a donation to keep the work going. There are too many alternative voices out there that are being silenced because of lack of support. So if you don't want MSM to be the only mind-controlling news out there, please consider supporting the people that support you and help us all save something for the future for our children. Thank you so much.